In this unit, we're introduced to a lot of different verbs that can use the dative case. Some of these verbs fall into a category that we call dative verbs. Some of these verbs we can classify as verbs that can use an indirect object. If we look at the list of verbs that we have here, you'll notice that we've used some of these verbs before. We just were able to use them without using the dative case. So for example, like I buy bread. Ich kaufe Brot. We used kaufen. Ich mache meine Hausaufgabe. I do my homework assignment. Ich singe gern. I like to sing. But these verbs that are familiar to us already, we can also use them with an indirect object. So like, ich kaufe dir Brot. I buy you bread. Ich mache dir ein Geschenk. I make you a gift. Ich singe euch ein Lied. I sing you guys a song. So we can use those ones with the dative. The dative verbs are something that's different. They require a dative object, and usually that object in our sentence would be accusative because our direct objects are accusative, unless you have a dative verb. So basically what we're going to do right now is we're going to sort these into whether or not they're a dative verb or a verb that we could use with an indirect object. Okay, so we are just going to take out all of the dative ones here. Antworten is a dative verb. It means to answer. Backen means to bake. You can bake something for someone, and that's how you would have an indirect object there. You can teach someone something. You'd have a direct object and an indirect object there. You can order someone something. You can bring someone something. To thank. If you thank someone, that someone will be dative. So that's a dative verb. You can give someone something. To be pleasing to, whoever something is pleasing to, that person will be dative. Gehören means to belong to. To whomever something belongs will be dative. Gratulieren means to congratulate. Whomever you're congratulating will be dative. Helfen means to help. Whoever you're helping will be dative. Kaufen means to buy, so you can buy someone something. You can make someone something. Passen means to fit. If something fits someone, that someone will be dative. To tell someone something, that would include an indirect object. To give someone something as a gift, schenken. Schicken means to send. You can send someone something. Schmecken means to taste. So if something tastes good to you, that to you will be the dative part. You can write someone something. You can sing someone something. You can throw someone something. But stehen here means to suit in this context as a dative verb. So if that suits you, you will be dative. All right, so we've sorted these verbs out as to whether or not they're dative verbs or verbs which can have an indirect object. Now the difference between these two is that basically our indirect object ones also have a direct object, and our dative verbs, they don't contain a direct object that's accusative. That thing that would normally be accusative is dative with these dative verbs. Let's take a look at some examples now. So I have two conjugated verbs up above here that are dative verbs. I have schmecken and gefallen. Schmecken means to taste, and gefallen means to be pleasing to. If I want to write the sentence, the soup tastes good to me, I would write, die Suppe schmeckt mir. And that is a statement. And you can see that my subject and verb are touching each other. They're next to each other. My verb is in the second position. The funny thing with dative verbs is that a lot of times they like to switch up the order of our sentences. And so this sentence does make sense. Die Suppe schmeckt mir. But a lot of times when you hear it in German, you'll hear it this way. Mir schmeckt die Suppe. And this still means the same thing. It's just in a little bit of a different order. Mir schmeckt die Suppe. And it might sound funny to you because we're not starting with ich, or nominative subject in the sentence. But this is more common in German when we use dative verbs to start with that object first. All right, if we wanted to ask a question. So, does the soup taste good to me? How would I write this in German? This is actually kind of a tricky question here because usually I always tell you that your subject and your verb are always kind of attached. They like to stay next to each other. But when we write this, it's going to be schmeckt mir die Suppe. That's what sounds best. You actually wouldn't write schmeckt die Suppe mir. It just sounds funny. So in this instance, we would separate the dative verb and the subject for it to make more sense in German. All right, let's try another sentence. How about, to whom does the soup taste good? So let's put everything back. To whom does the soup taste good? Wem schmeckt die Suppe? So we have our subject and our verb. They're touching again. The person that it would be tasting good to is our dative object there, and that is a question word this time, and that's wem. Wem schmeckt die Suppe? And it's kind of implied when you use the verb schmecken that it means to taste good. You could put like gut in the sentence if you wanted, or lecker, but it's implied that if you say that something schmeckt, es schmeckt, that means it tastes good. All right, let's try another one with the other verb there. Gefallen means to be pleasing to. So if I want to write a sentence like, the jacket is pleasing to the man, which sounds kind of funny in English actually. Normally in English you'd say the man likes the jacket, but that would kind of mess up our thought process on when we're thinking of what our subject or our direct object is in the sentence. So let's think of it as the jacket is pleasing to the man, and let's come up with what that sentence is in German. So we get die Jacke gefällt dem Mann. The jacket is pleasing to the man. Now, just like with the verb schmecken, we can switch up our word order a little bit and actually start with our object. So we can move die Jacke to the end and start with our object and say dem Mann gefällt die Jacke. And it sounds a little bit better to start with our object with dative verbs. It actually kind of translates better to like, the man likes the jacket. But if we think of it that way, then whenever you ask the question, who is liking, then you would think that that person's your subject. So we're going to continue to think about gefallen when we translate it, meaning to be pleasing to, not to like, because we don't want to confuse what our object and our subject are in the sentence. So here we have, the jacket is pleasing to the man. Now, what if I want to ask a question, and I want to say, like, to whom is the jacket pleasing? Who likes the jacket? To whom is the jacket pleasing? What would that be in German? Wem gefällt die Jacke? This means basically, who likes the jacket? To whom is the jacket pleasing? How about, is the jacket pleasing to the man? Is the jacket pleasing to the man? So if we're asking a question, we're going to start with our verb. Okay, and normally what would come next would be the subject. Gefällt die Jacke dem Mann. But with these dative verbs, when we ask questions like that, it sounds better to say gefällt dem Mann die Jacke. So just like when we make a statement, it sounds better to start with our object. So like if we went back to our verb schmecken here, mir schmeckt die Suppe. It, for some reason, sounds better to have our dative verb paired with our object than with our subject. So you see that these two are touching in both of these instances, whether or not it's a statement or a question. So let's just try a few example translations before we move on. Let's keep our normal word order for the translation, we are helping my mother at home. Okay, so we'll start with our subject for this one. We are helping my mother at home. The dative verb that we're using in the sentence is helfen. So come up with the translation of the sentence. And we get, wir helfen meiner Mutter zu Hause. So wir helfen, we help. That's the subject and the verb. And the person that's being helped is our dative object. That's my mother. And then at home, we know how to say that already. We learned that in the last unit. Zu Hause is at home. All right. Now we have the son thanks his father for the gift. Danken is the dative verb. The son thanks his father for the gift. Start with the son. Der Sohn dankt seinem Vater für das Geschenk. So the son thanks his father. His father is your dative object. And then for the gift is just another prepositional phrase. It's an accusative preposition. So it's für das Geschenk. All right, how about this last one here? Gehören. Gehören means to belong to. So if I want to say the food belongs to me, another way of saying that would be the food is mine. So both of those mean the same thing in German. They can be translated the same way. We're going to start with the food belongs to me. So we get Das Essen gehört mir. The food is the subject, and then the person to whom it belongs is our dative object. Das Essen gehört mir. Now we could start this off with our dative component if we wanted to do that. How would this look if I started it with the dative part of the sentence? Mir gehört das Essen. And this actually sounds better than das Essen gehört mir. Mir gehört das Essen. And that, again, could be translated to the food belongs to me or the food's mine. So that is a quick overview of dative verbs, how they differ from verbs that can use an indirect object, and how they affect word order in a German sentence.